The French masters will come out to play on the latest Thursday Classics concert presented by your Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. Louis Farrenc, Francis Poulenc, and Maurice Ravel will shine through on this program, which sees Maestro Nodoka Okasawa returning to the podium to lead the WSO. The program will also feature pianist Stewart Goodyear's return to the Centennial Concert Hall stage to perform a unique offering of Ravel's The Concerto for the Left Hand. Stewart Goodyear joins us ahead of this performance to tell us more. Wonderful to see you.
Great to see you.
So, for those who may not be familiar with the work, what is the story behind The Concerto for the Left Hand?
Paul Wittgenstein commissioned Maurice Ravel to write this concerto. Paul Wittgenstein was this virtuoso pianist who lost his right arm in World War I. And he wanted to continue performing. So he commissioned many composers, with the caliber of Richard Strauss, Benjamin Britten, Prokofiev, and Maurice Ravel, and asked them to each write a piano concerto. And Paul, if I may address him as such,
very familiar,
was very, very picky. He was very conservative in his tastes, and a lot of the concertos that were brought to him, he just he played with almost kicking and screaming, and there were some where he just refused to play at all, like the Prokofiev. He says, "I don't understand it. I won't play it." But with Ravel was a real clash of personality because I think Paul liked the work, Maurice liked his work, but Paul wanted to adjust a few things, add a few notes, and Maurice would not have anything of it. So there was this, back and forth going on. But they finally, they met in the middle, which meant that Paul agreed to play the work exactly as written. There is this incredible YouTube video where you see Paul play the work, and he's adding everything. But this guy, was just a beast of a pianist, and fingers flying all over the place, and it does sound like 3 or 4 hands, which I think was exactly what inspired Ravel to write the concerto the way he did. It really does sound like 3 hands, and you have the left hand playing all over the keyboard from the very bottom to the very top, and it's just an incredible piece of music, very dramatic, very theatrical, but also very moving and very revolutionary.
I want to get into a little bit of the relationship between the pianist and the conductor for something like this, because the pianist Paul Wittgenstein, not the only one to have issues with Ravel and his various tempi as well when it comes to this work. But when you are approaching something that is so specific, both between Ravel and Wittgenstein, and not to mention the added challenge of playing with only one hand, what challenges accompany a work like this from a technical level as you approach it?
From a technical level, it's really from the start, and I feel the same way with the 2-hand concerto that Ravel wrote. There is something that inspires the whole performance for me, and it all starts with the contrabassoon, which starts extremely low, and the double basses are accompanying at the lowest register, and it's almost as if it's like we're in the underworld, and somehow it blossoms into this blazing sunshine, and then the piano comes in. So it's up to the pianist to really match the power that the orchestra gives that opening. And there are a lot of cadenzas, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the pianist is alone when he does it. It's really a give and take with Maurice's orchestration and what Ravel requires the pianist to do with the left hand, and it has to be filled with color. It has to complement the brass that has to complement the strings. And I think that is the challenge, because the left hand usually had been the supporter of the right hand, but now it is, the left hand has three jobs. It has to be the supporter, it has to be the melody, it has to imitate, there are many hats. It has to imitate the harp, and it has to honor what the conductor does with the orchestra.
Oh, wow. So then there's within that challenge a special variety of colors that can be pulled from this work that maybe wouldn't exist, I would imagine, if it was a more traditional sort of piano concerto. What sorts of things do you think you're able to achieve given the added criteria, maybe we can call it, of a piece like this, versus something that has a bit more of a conventional two-handed approach?
I think it's a very interesting question, and there's so many ways of answering it. I think what makes it very different from like a conventional 20th century concerto is the fact that it really does pay homage to the 19th century, where the piano is really the center of everything, you know. But in the way that the orchestra and the piano comes in, this is when the 20th century comes into play, because the pianist becomes a collaborator of everything, and an accompanist to a lot of solos that the orchestra takes.
Hmm.
And so it's everything. It's this very grandiose, heroic um, kind of concerto that was made popular by composers like Liszt, and like Beethoven in his later concertos, and others. But it is also very much a 20th century work too, because it's like your concerto for piano and orchestra in its purest form. And
Hmm.
there are so many highlights for the orchestra, from the contrabassoon to there's a flute solo, and there's a bassoon solo, and the strings have a say. Everybody has a say.
Hmm. Okay. With all of that, all of these musicians having a say to give homage, as you say, to the 19th century in its construction, this is a piece that is, of course, indelibly marked by the horrors of the early 20th century as well, mentioning that, of course, the original soloist lost his arm during a
Yeah.
conflict in the First World War. Given that, what kinds of considerations do you put into this music, given the extra weight that it has this association and really has been so shaped by conflict?
Yeah. I think in a way that is the secret for playing this piece with so much power, with a lot of power, but at the same time doing it so that your left arm doesn't fall off. And a lot of
Right.
it has to do psychologically with what's happening with the concerto, and always remembering that this is a character essay. This is all about just coming to terms with a different chapter in your life, that sense of loss, but also pulling through. And I
What
think,
do you, yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I think like that first theme is so poignant, because it's like, yes, it is bittersweet. Yes, it is tinged with sadness, but it's also tinged with defiance. And it's like we're going to pull through no matter what, because we have no choice.
Mm.
And it has that kind of a feel. And even with the military atmosphere of the middle section, where you hear the trumpets almost cackling like the Joker, and it is very sinister. There's dissonance there that creates an off kilter to the tonality of the work. So it is very much a major key concerto, but there are these dissonances that come and kind of put you on edge. There's
Mm.
also blue notes that Ravel was very much inspired to, I don't know whether it's jazzy or whether it is just something that is just part of the Ravel fabric. Paul, uh, from reports, disliked the concerto because of the elements of jazz and the work. I don't hear, there is a section that is bluesy, but it never feels jazzy to me, anyways.
Mm.
There are syncopations, but I think it just puts it into a lens of 1932. That's how I feel.
Yeah. What do you hope audiences take away from a performance like this in the midst of a time of year where conflict and its costs are more front of mind?
Yeah. Well, I hope they feel it. I hope they feel that by the end, there's a triumph, even if it's hard earned. And sometimes it's even sweeter that way because there is that toil of struggle, and it's a personal struggle, and it's a struggle where it's between hope and despair, and those two battling each other violently, but who comes up on top? And we know by the end which does. But there is a tinge of this, of despair trying to come in, saying, you think you won, but next time. So you're always looking over your shoulder. But in the meantime, it's that sense of defiance, it's that sense of strength, it's that sense of really pulling through and marching to your own beat. And
Wow.
that's what I take away from it. And I hope I honor the work completely so that the audience feels it too.
Another person hoping to honor that work completely is guest conductor Nodoka Okasawa. And I mentioned it before that Ravel had contentious maybe relationships with the one of the original conductors that he wanted for this work, in Arturo Toscanini, as well
Yes.
as with the original soloist, about tempi and the way that things should be crafted. How do the two of you, maestro and soloist, navigate that sort of history and that contention to both honor what Ravel wanted, but also what that soloist, so indelibly associated with this work, would have wanted?
I think it's like we have to swallow all that information like a capsule so that what we bring is so personal. It's not like we're taking dictation. It's bringing ourselves to life, with the music that is written, and somehow it comes out of our pores. Like we become those characters, we become the storyline as opposed to just being a narrator.
French masters, which includes Maurice Ravel's Piano Concerto for the Left Hand, as well as Francis Poulenc's Suite from Les Biches and Louis Farrenc's Third Symphony, will take to the stage at the Centennial Concert Hall at 7 o'clock on November the 13th. We'll have more information on this at our website, classic107.com, and the Classic 107 app. And don't forget to tune in to Classic at the Concert Hall on Wednesday, November the 12th from 10 to noon for your chance to win tickets. Stewart Goodyear, it's been such a joy getting to know this incredible work through you, and all the best as you share this alongside with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra.
Thank you.